Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's ACY Securities webinar, Forex Trading Live Market Analysis. My name is Duncan Cooper. Before we get into it, if you can read through the disclaimer, any questions to the question box or to the chat box. If you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but you're more than welcome to join us in the webinar. I've given you the link. You can just follow the link and come to the webinars, and then you can simply ask me the questions. So just read through this disclaimer for me before we move along. All right, let's move along. If you don't know me, then my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at ACY Securities, and I'm a full-time trader. Been trading the Forex market now for more than 15 years. Been mentoring clients for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is on screen there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. And through the week, you can connect with me on our website, acy.com Market News tab. You'll find my analysis there, as well on our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia. And you can connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn there. I've got some content going through those channels as well. Through the week, in our Telegram channel, you can connect with me there where I'm providing analysis. And if you want to get access to that, contact Nathan Bray. His email is on screen now. I'll put it into the chat momentarily anyway. If you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates that I'm using as well, just contact Nathan. He will organize that for you and set you up. So I'll just put his details in the chat now. Bear with me. All right, so that is going in the chat right now. So getting access to the Telegram, to my chart layouts and templates, or if you've got any question about opening an account, then simply contact Nathan. He'll only be too happy to help you out. All right, let's get into it. Now, first up, let's have a look at the news. Now, there is coming out today. We have the US core retail sales. I should correct myself. Let's go back a day. That's Wednesday, sorry. So let me just backtrack. So today is Tuesday, February the 14th. So we've just had the pound claimant count come out, which came out positive to what was expected. Okay, so the pound has got a bid on it at the moment, and coming up at 11:30 p.m. we've got for the US CPI month-on-month, year-on-year core CPI month-on-month. So looking at the figures, they're expecting that inflation month-on-month, if the CPI is going to uptick from the previous year-on-year, though, they're expecting inflation to drop 6.2 from 6.5, and core CPI, they're expecting that will uptick slightly. So we'll see what happens. The market's definitely looking to this announcement. Of course, how the Fed moves forward with interest rates is going to be dictated by how they see inflation coming out. So market's definitely going to react to that. And the US dollar has been selling off a little bit over the last, 36 hours. All right, so that's the big event in the next 24 hours. And yes, as I was discussing, but it was on Wednesday. We've got tomorrow, Aussie RBA Governor Lowe speaks for the pound, CPI year on year, so that's the inflation. 11:30 p.m. for the US, got core retail sales, Empire State Manufacturing Index and retail sales. So that's what's coming out over the next 24 to 48 hours. So just be aware what's coming out. The big one is that CPI data released tonight, 11:30 p.m. Queensland time. So with that in mind, it's going to be hard to take a trade and know exactly what's going to happen. I just want to have a quick look around while I'm talking. It's going to be hard to know what's going to happen, because if it comes out, let's say the inflation figures come out showing more inflation, the US dollar is going to definitely, be positive. And if the inflation figures come out lower, the US dollar is going to be negative. So going to get very volatile. I'm seeing these pairs move up at the moment on some of these, and the pound dollar. All right, so let's start with the dollar index. And the key thing on the dollar index is that level of resistance at 103.82. And structurally on the weekly chart here at the moment, we're still in a downtrend, and we're being held at these, go to the monthly chart, these monthly tops. So we've broken below the monthly tops, and we're coming up to test the monthly tops. Now the trend on the monthly is still up, quite clearly up, but the trend on the weekly is down. If we're going to see a move all the way back up to the top here, at any given time, this weekly chart trend needs to turn down, and we need to get back above this monthly resistance level at 103.82. So at the moment, we're a bit negative for the week. We do have a higher bottom here, but we're kind of 2, 4, 5, 6 days here. We're just in a bit of a holding pattern here. We're holding above this broken area of daily resistance. So we've moved above, pulled back to it. So we are holding above this area that we've broken above. And hopefully you can see there we're in a bit of a consolidation period here. Just waiting for that news out to come out tonight. And then it's either going to blow north or it's going to blow south. All right. So, we finished last week very, very positive versus the US dollar. But over the last 36 hours, we've been pulling back. So are we going to continue that positivity that we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks? All right, so I might start with the pound. It's maybe forming a higher bottom here on the day chart. Well, the weekly chart, we're trading up inside last week's candle. Now, we might just pop above the high of last week, or we might not. The big question at the moment is this a double top? I mean, we could form a bottom here and then form a lower top. It'd be nicer if the bottom that came in is a lower bottom if we're going to continue down. So if we go up this week, this is going to make things a little bit mixed. It's going to be a higher bottom to an equal top. All right, so day charts. We might be coming up to do a minor double top here, or we could be turning around to an uptrend here on the daily. So a critical level here is this top at 120.193. That was last week's high. As to the data coming out later in the day, if it goes berserk and it's US dollar week and we fly north, you really want to be looking at 122.93. That's that weekly top up here. Just price hold there. Or 123.91, which is an old monthly level of resistance from back in time where the market has been topping out. So these high levels of resistance could be where price gets to if we have a negative US dollar. If it's positive, then we'll obviously be looking to challenge these levels of support to move down to this weekly level of support at 118.41. So in the short term, though, we are coming up. There's still plenty of time, but we could come up here, hold at 121.93 and trade down ahead of 11.30. So you might see an intraday move down from that level up there. All right, I just want to put in a fib across that range that we're tracing back up so I can see where the 79% level is. So we're above the 79% level at the moment. So a level to watch if I wanted to trade ahead of the news would be up here at 121.93 for failure. The 12200 level may be the figure, but we might not get there and it may just start to be in a holding pattern. But I just wanted to highlight, we're coming up to an area of resistance up here, last week's high, 12200 the figure. Depending on what depending on what the CPI data comes out, if it comes out pretty much on print, the market might not react too much at all. And what we might see is just a bit of a stub through the 122 level up there. And then we start to fall back below last week's high. And then we might be going down all for the rest of the week. So it all depends what the news brings. We're probably all expecting maybe that there's going to be fireworks, be it up or down. But if it comes on exactly to print, it may jostle around for 15 minutes, half an hour. But then, as it starts to settle, if it starts to settle and want to hold, say, under 122, then there might be an opportunity to trade down. The other thing to maybe monitor is, let's say we have topped up here and we are going to have a week up, then it's worth understanding where the fib levels are. 62 levels at 122.61 and 79s at 123.43. So market could respect any one of those levels as well. So I'm treating this as a final top at the moment until proven differently. Yes, the news can come out and drive it up, but until we trade above this area, for me, I'm looking for weakness to form somewhere and then for a trade back down. Now, I could be completely wrong and we could be moving above these tops, but as I've been saying before, last year's trading range, we're pretty much failing at 62% of your last year's trading range, creating a double top up there. So I'm looking at that as potentially the yearly high for a move down through the course of the year. Slav, you're saying, if CPI comes above, then what is expected? If the CPI prints better than expected, that means inflation's still growing. So that's going to be US dollar strength, because the Fed's going to have to come out and maybe increase interest rates at 50%. Sorry, at 50 basis points or 75 basis points, or continue their interest rate hiking for longer, even just at 25 basis points. So if it comes up higher, that really means that, you know, the Fed hasn't got it under control yet. So yeah, like you're saying, if CPI comes better than what's potentially expected as a print, the market will just instantly drop. It's going to be very difficult. You know, if you're not already short on some of these pairs and it drops to the short side, you just won't be able to get in. Whereas some of these pairs where we may be looking for a rally to finish, if it spurts up and then a rally finishes, that will be an ideal opportunity to get short. So it's going to be difficult to get short if the market just shorts when the news comes out, for sure. All right, so get your level set on there. I might just head over to the left and start with the Aussie yen now. Not too much is changing. This keeps falling and keeps coming back pretty much to this area here, the 91.91 level, the 9200 level. Keeps holding there, moving above a little bit. And my larger outlook is that we're in a downtrend on the weekly. Bottom, lower top, bottom. We're potentially putting in a further top area here. And I'm looking at that as a failure area for a move down. It's not giving it up easily though. And this day trend has been down. It's just popped up, but it's holding. So we've had that failure here at the 62 level and weekly resistance over here at 92.59. So we could definitely pop up back up to 92.59 today, depending on what the news brings. Or we could just stay within the range that's forming here. And you'll notice that we're probably at the 79% area of this range. See how we've been holding there today. Very similar to the Euro yen that I put out on Telegram today. So the 79% level is at 92.18. And we're pretty much sitting just below 92 on this support resistance line here. So is that a move down? Is that corrective to the 79 for a move down that way? I can't look to buy this in this area. I would need to see this break strongly north, so I know that the buyer's in command, because at the moment, anything that's getting above 92 just keeps getting met. All right. All right, to the 4-hour charts. I would just be monitoring this 92.18 to 92 level. In fact, the 91.91 level up to that area there. Over the next 24 hours, I don't know how this is going to react when the data comes out, but over the next 24 hours, if the market's still in the same place, look to this area for failure, for a move down. All right, until we can take out this area up here, this is potentially a further failure. See all these 4-hour tops here that we've tried to trade through yesterday, and then we're back below. So for me, This is resistance. I'll be looking for a failure back below 92 this week, unless the market news clearly drives it north. It's going to be, obviously, it's dangerous to hold a position at the moment if you're not already in profit, but obviously you need to decide yourself what you want to do ahead of the news. All right, Aussie dollar. Very similar to the pound dollar. There's last year's trading range. 62 level that we failed at, double top on the weekly. Is that a double top? Now what it's doing is it's pulling back to weekly support. So failing at weekly resistance, tying in with that 62% level, and monthly resistance over here at 7106, pulling back at the moment to weekly support. Now this weekly trend is up, but the monthly trend is down. There's your monthly look. So what's going to govern? I'm looking at this as, like I was saying on the pound dollar, a final failure. Unless we could trade above there, I'm looking at that as a final failure at the moment. This is getting a little bit mixed in here, but a bit sideways and choppy. Sitting on this weekly top, 68.93. Tested that level yesterday and then reversed. So it's just staying within the range of last week. Staying below 69.84. Depending on what the news brings later in the day, we may well see, I could put this in the Telegram today, but we never quite get up there. We haven't been able to get up to 69.84 daily resistance, or the 70 level, which is fractionally above. So we might just see a stub above that level, stub up just above 70 when the news comes out. If that area then holds though, that could be the high for the week to move down. There's also the other case that we could retrace back up within this range today. If the US dollar news comes out really negative, then I'd be monitoring up to the 79% level, the 7106 monthly resistance level up here. Depends what the news does. All right. It's obviously difficult while we're waiting for this news to come out. So obviously, if you've got a short bias, I've got a short bias to this pair, it would be great to establish a short higher up. The 71 level would be great if we got a spike all the way up there. However, we might not get up there. So we'll just have to wait and see. All right, so 79% levels at approximately the 70.92 level. 7106 is monthly resistance. Could even get up to 71.37 if it really wants to, depending on what the news does. All right. But it may not move much above 69.84. It can't get there today. So this is the current range you're monitoring, but there's that larger range depending on what price does. I'm monitoring that 79 level at the moment for failure, but we may go up the bigger range depending on what price does. Euro yen. Now last week we failed at the 42.55. It's weekly resistance. Let's drop it to the weekly chart so you can see that low there. Now we do have lower tops on the weekly, lower top to lower bottom. And we kind of had a 62% retracement. So if the weekly trend is going to remain in playing down, we could be failing up here to move down. The day chart it's nowhere near anything perfect, but you know, this little top here could be a left shoulder, that could be a head, and you know, that could be a left shoulder here. All right, so it's a little bit clear on the 4-hour chart, so I'm just going to get rid of some of this information. So you know, we obviously failed last week at 42.55 to trade down. We are trading up from a lower bottom, coming up to challenge that left shoulder area here, which is at 142.29, and we've held at the 79% level. So that's the top just there, 142.293. Now, depending on what the news does, we could stab back up there, but that's strong resistance up there at the moment, 142.55. Couldn't get there yesterday. On this very large rally that we had yesterday, we couldn't get back up to the 142.55 weekly level that we failed at the week before. So clearly, even though we had a very large rally, the sellers are clearly up there. watching to hold it. And I will be watching that area just there, 79% fib and the 142.29 level at the moment. Yes, we could spike up to 142.55. And of course, we could blow straight through there. But if we just spike up and then we start withdrawing after the news, this could be well where we're forming a right shoulder for, move down to day supports, the day support level there, 127 extension, or even weekly monthly support down here. Of course, we need to see a failure here, and it's just a question of managing the trade to wherever it wants to run out to. But this looks like this. I mean, without the news, this looks like a failure. Depending on what the news is, we'll just have to wait and see. All right, euro dollar. Now, of course, we could have this very negative weekly rejection. Like I was just saying on the Aussie, and it is the same on the pound, to some extent, we could be forming a higher bottom. Pound's got a double top, and the Aussie's got a double top, but all those pairs to the US dollar could form a higher bottom on the weekly, which will make a mess of things a little bit. But on the euro dollar here, we don't have a double top, we have a single top. So if we do form another bottom here, it's just another higher bottom within this weekly trend that's going up. I'm monitoring last year's range. That's last year's high. Don't forget that the monthly trend on all these pairs to the US dollar is still down. All this movement up for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, 4 or 5 months, depending on the pair, it's all corrective against the monthly downtrend. So we have a monthly downtrend, but we still have a weekly uptrend in all these pairs potentially. All right, so we could be forming a high bottom here just to move up and through and above that top. So I'm not 100% convinced this is the final top on the euro. I'm a little bit more convinced on the pound dollar because it looks like a double top, same on the Aussie dollar, but with the euro dollar, we don't have that same kind of double top formation. But we are in a downtrend here on the daily at the moment. And we have had a heavy sell-off, and we're just trading back up within the range of last week at the moment. We're just moving above a weekly top here. We have another weekly top over here, 107.87. So if we get negative US news, watch 107.87. That's the first level of resistance for failure. Above that is 108.79, which is monthly resistance. All right. And you could be drawing, you could be drawing a fib across the larger range. So if things go absolutely nuts, watch the fib level. 62 level lines up nicely with that monthly level. Could be watching the 79% level. You could even be waiting for maybe a double top to form up here, depending on what the market wants to do. Now that's if the US dollar prints very poorly and the US dollar is, it's US dollar negative. At the moment though, structurally, we're still in a downtrend on the daily, and we're just rallying back up within this range. All right. And you can see the 79% level just overlaps with these 4-hour tops here. So some form of head and shoulder pattern could form there, but it could just, come up to there. It could come up to retest this high when the news comes out. But like I was saying on the pound, if we come up to test this high, we come up to test last week's high up here at 107.98, so pretty much the 108 level. If all we do is come up to test here and then withdraw, to me, that's just the end of the rally from the news. And then you should be looking for an opportunity to trade down. If it goes gangbusters north, then you'll have to wait and see what it does at the higher levels of resistance. Now, it won't give you an opportunity to short it if it comes up, obviously, US dollar positive. It'll just drop. All right, so those are the levels I'm watching at the moment. On the upside, 107.87 here, 108.79. All right. Mine just stay within the range that I've got drawn in here at the moment. All right, pound yen. It is not changing its range-bound environment too much from a weekly perspective. It is changing its day structure, though, to up. But I'll get rid of that line that I've been monitoring, what we've broken above. This is weekly resistance. I'll get rid of that line. And we've got weekly support down here, monthly support at 156.07. So really we're just stuck in a weekly range. We're coming up, got some daily tops here. The weekly top is that line, but we have some daily tops within the mix. And you see how we just pulled up short. So we might spike into that area. That's the area we'll be watching for a sell at the moment within this range that's forming until we get a clear breakout. All right, I'll just keep trading this as though it's in a range. You draw a fib across that range. We're at the 79% level at the moment, but we could stub into there. What you might see over the next 24 hours is we stub up into this area and then we start to withdraw. And then you could be looking to short it at the 79 level to trade down the range. So it's just a question, what does price do when the news comes out? Does it stub into that area hold? Can you construct something around the 79% level? Price starts to drift back down. Of course, price could blow through, but at the moment, I'm just analyzing what I'm seeing, and I'm seeing a top of a range there that we're just holding below. So maybe we'll just hold at the top of the range after the news. All right. Still very consolidatory. Pound dollar, covered that one. It's not really going anywhere at the moment. Over the last almost half an hour I've been discussing it. Can't get up to that last week's high or the 122 level. New Zealand yen, like the pound yen, but probably worse. In my analysis I put out this morning, where if you may have noticed I'm covering some other pairs, the euro pound, the dollar franc as well. Then I'm looking up here for failure at the moment. Daily, weekly resistance area up here. All right. We may be putting in a lower top here on the weekly to move down. It's not easy going. It's just very consolidatory. All right. Can we move into there? Can you see a failure to move down? So that's the 84.66 level to the 84.91 level. On the other side, if he doesn't get up there, I always like to trade at resistance or support in a range. Then I'll be looking down here for a trade. Trade up. Until we get a clear break below here, I just have to trade it like it's a range. So there's the clear range. I don't like to trade it in the middle. I like to trade on the outskirts. Sell down from the top, buy up from the bottom. All right. All right, so still very mixed there. New Zealand dollar. This doesn't look too dissimilar to the Aussie dollar. It doesn't look too dissimilar to the euro dollar, but what this pair is doing at the moment is it has come up to test its daily resistance level. Let's go back to the euro dollar. See the euro dollar daily chart. It hasn't come up to test this level of last week, but there is a daily level just there at 107.66 that the market may be holding to. But this isn't reversing yet on an intraday perspective, whereas the New Zealand dollar is. And the Aussie dollar, it hasn't come up to its resistance level just here. So it's a little bit short. And the New Zealand dollar, as we look at the correlation of these pairs, has already touched that level where it's selling off. So it's just consolidating here between daily resistance 63.65 and day support at 63.04. At the moment, it's still lower tops and bottoms. We have this weekly, very similar to the pound. There's the yearly range. Flying at 62 level, creating this kind of double, triple top area on the weekly. Flying at monthly resistance here. That is a fractional higher top. So, I mean, theoretically, we could still put in another higher bottom on the weekly and move up and beyond. And it's slightly telling me the New Zealand dropped there on New Zealand CPI news. So it's a little bit of negative data for the New Zealand as well. I'm sure we're all, or most of us will be aware, Well, if you're in Australia, you'll be aware there's obviously the cyclone that's hit New Zealand. I just saw it in the news before, those massive floods. So that's going to obviously have an impact on their economy in some form or fashion. I think 2/3 of the islands kind of flooded. So what have we done? Made a final top here. So really it's the same commentary. You know, we've fallen down. The day trend is still down here. We could just be simply now holding at 63.65, ready to drop after the news. If we drop it down to the 4-hour chart, the whole range at the moment. Now, if we do rally aggressively, 64.68 is, just need to double check, it's a weekly top over here. I'll be watching that level there. 64.80, 79% fib level. If we get a massive rally. All right, for, you know, one last lunge up there for another lower top to form on a higher time frame. Perhaps we could even run all the way up to 65.27, but that area where we had a triple top is very strong resistance. So I mean, we could get up to all these top levels if price really wants to over the next few days, depending on what the news brings. So get all these strong resistance levels drawn in, because it's been very negative since the job figures. There's been a bit of a switch, and that negativity switch, even if we get US dollar negativity today, we may just pop up high and then fail. So get the levels drawn in. 64.68 is your weekly top. Monthly resistance at 65.27, the 79% fibs at 64.80. Do we pop up to that area, hold and fail? And yes, Slav, we could, you know, there's an imbalance down through here. So yes, we could, you know, feel this imbalance. All right. But we'll just have to wait and see. All right, so it's in a holding pattern, holding, tested and holding at 63.65 daily resistance here. So that could be a failure area for a move back down. Of course, if you're not already short and the US dollar strength tonight, you won't be able to get in, it'll just drop. All right, now if you're on the buy side of this pair, I mean, it may drop. Down here is monthly support at 62.04 and weekly support at 61.91. If we dropped, that may offer some support to trade back up in the short term. But I think if the inflation figures come out showing inflation is growing, I don't think you want to be trying to sell the US dollar. You want to be looking then for opportunities to potentially sell a rally at some point. But where will that rally come if we drop after the news? All right. Right, dollar Canadian, not much is changing. We've still got this, while we may be putting in a higher bottom here on the weekly, we need another week maybe to come in to completely prove that. But disregarding that bottom, we have a higher bottom, lower top. So we're trading within a weekly range here. And now we're actually trading within a daily range here, daily resistance and daily support. So resistance at 134.71, supports at 132.62. At the moment, it's a range. You want to be looking for this to come down to the bottom of the range, hold, or look to trade up. If this could stab down to 132.25, weekly support, your day support's at 132.62. At the moment, it's just holding, it's in the holding pattern. All right. All markets, all these pairs are looking at what is the US dollar going to do. Dollar yen. Now, dollar yen last week, the weekly chart, this weekly low area here, we got support from that level last week. We have actually put in a minor higher bottom here. All right. So it is maybe turning the corner to move up. I couldn't trade above last week's high at the moment, but you can see there, these 2 days, we actually had 2 outside days here, which made life very difficult, but we got support down here from the weekly low and all these day tops that were resistance underneath that weekly low, you know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. That area became support on these 2 days. All right, so it is showing some positivity, although of course it's going to react to what the news does tonight. So it is becoming a bit positive for the dollar yen. Maybe we're going to move all the way up to last year's high. All right, so we do have a higher bottom. We do have a higher top. We just need to clear that top to keep the uptrend going. Weekly resistance here at 133.62. That could well be a headache. All right, and then you got monthly resistance at 135.60. Make sure you've got that on your chart, because on the monthly chart, if you squash it in, it's that top there. So of course, last year we moved above that top. We moved above this top, but we couldn't hold above those tops. So got some work to do once more. If this wants to move higher, it has to move above this monthly top long term. Still in the monthly uptrend here. All right. And the weekly is maybe just starting to turn to up with that very minor bottom here. Minor higher bottom there, starting to form. All right. So the key levels to watch, 133.62 if we keep moving up, and 135.16. Weekly and monthly resistance. If you're already in, those are the levels you need to watch to manage your trades. So it is in an uptrend. Now, what I would be looking for, as that is the basis of, you know, the trend bias at the moment, this could dip. You've got day support here at 131.11, and we could even revisit 130.40. You know, if it went back down to 130.40, I am sure that you'll find some support there in the short term. All right. So I would definitely be watching 131.11, 130.40 if we get a dip. Might offer opportunities to buy down at those levels on a setup, whatever your setup might be, okay? And it is correcting down from last week's high, but it may only just hold on this 4-hour top to just move higher through the course of the day after the news, okay? But of course, if this moves north when the news comes out, you need to be in already. You can't click in once it goes north, because it'll just shoot 100 pips. All right, S&P 500. Talked about the dollar index before, saying that that's just at a holding level at the moment. So let's just go back to it. It's just holding just underneath this monthly level of resistance at 103.82, and some little bit of a holding pattern here. And the S&P 500 is very much the same. It's just holding here. This area that I drew in last week, if you go to the monthly chart, lower top to lower bottom, we're at the 79% level. And then when you move to your weekly chart, there are 2 weekly tops here that we're testing along the 79% level. And there's more weekly lows here and here and here, and another high there. So it's a known level of resistance at the moment. Market's not being able to move above it. And in actual fact, there is a bit of a bottom to a lower top. So a lower bottom is at another lower top, tagging the 79% level once more. Of course, if inflation figures peak up today, the stock market will go down. All right. Gold. Now, we know that certainly over the last 12 months, gold has been very highly correlated to the pairs to the US dollar moving down. Now, whilst the US dollar pairs to the US dollar moving up at the moment in general terms over the last 36 hours, as that news item comes out, gold's not doing too much of an upbid here, is it? At all. This is how I drew it in last week with this flag kind of channel that we've broken out of to the downside, and we couldn't really feel too much of that imbalance. So this is looking very negative at the moment. So to my weekly charts, this area of resistance support there is holding the market. You see last week's high came in at that level. All right, so that's the level of, if we do move up, that would potentially be a good level to look for a short. You know, the larger perspective here at the moment, there's your monthly perspective. It's bang at this monthly top, it's bang at that monthly top over there, the 1920 level. Is this a significant top that we're putting in some other monthly highs here that are shown on the weekly chart as weekly chart tops? Weekly chart, these tops over here. Is this a significant failure for a long-term decline? Now, this weekly trend is actually up still in terms of high tops and bottoms. So we could just have a few weeks down and hold and get some support before we drive much higher up. But that's a weekly candle there, took out 3 weeks. It's very negative. Slavia, you're saying to me, you've noticed that now it's possible to actually trade the dollar index. Yeah, some brokers offer it, other brokers don't. I don't know. I don't trade the dollar index as a thing. So I'll take your word for it. So you reckon you can buy and sell now? I'm in a demo account, so it doesn't matter if I screw things up. So let me just buy it. All right, so you can buy it because it's letting me buy it if I want to. So, all right, so you can definitely buy it. All right, so you're telling me there's no price before on the quote? Okay. All right, I'm not sure how the pricing works though, but yes, it does look like you can trade it. I mean, I would trade it in the demo account first to make sure you know what the pricing is, or contact the office and maybe talk to Nathan and he might be able to tell you what the price is per pip and the lot size and how all that kind of works. You need to really make sure you know exactly what the unit size is and how it works in terms of price per pip. But yeah, it does look like you can. All right, back to gold. So yeah, weekly candles very negative. Took out 3 weeks there. Last week couldn't get above that weekly resistance level. We've got a lower top, lower bottom now on the daily. I mean, the goal now is to just monitor a pullback. Even if you come back up to 1890, that resistance level, even if it trades above, as long as if we fail at that level, that's an opportunity to sell from that level there. So you can be monitoring that range that we're forming at the moment. We may have a 62% retracement, 79% retracement. We may come up from a double top up here, but that weekly move down there was very negative. Does look like that the 4-hour rally is at the moment getting capped at that low as well. So it doesn't have a lot of rally in it at the moment, but once the news comes out, it could obviously pop up. All right. It's not that attractive in terms of its price action at the moment, it's gold, but it is relatively negative at the moment. You would need to see this close above 1890 to start to think about buying this, I think, on a setup. All right, so whilst it's failing at 1890 or below, then you're looking to sell a rally at the moment on gold. Slav, are you trading gold at the moment? I know you trade gold. I just want to look at the monthly picture. All right. So we were up last month. All this movement down is in this month. So last month's range, I just want to see where last month's range is. That's last month's candle. All right, so we have actually pulled back to the 79% level. Let me just see the 79% level here of last month's candle. So there is the possibility that, if this starts to go sideways and starts to creep north, showing high tops and bottoms on the 4-hour chart, there is the possibility that this is just all being corrected within the range of last month for another move up to have a stab at this high up here. All right, so I've actually drawn that fib from last month's low up to the high of the new month because we just traded above last month's high. That's the 79% level at the moment where we are getting some form of support. So if this 4-hour chart does start to, if it starts to creep, pulls back maybe to the 79% level and shows a slow but sure creep up here, then looking to buy a dip may be the go for a run up to the high again. But it's a difficult one at the moment. Gold, that was a very negative sell-off when that week took out 3 weeks. But I can see we're at some form of support in terms of last month's range, drawing that fib across there. So it's a bit tricky. Day trend is definitely down. So at the moment, that would be a good bias to hold to at the moment. I can get rid of this box. All right, so at the moment, unless I started to see that 4-hour chart creep, I would look more to that range there for a rally. 62 or the 79 for a move down. All right. Yep, slab statement is being tricky to trade gold. Yeah, I mean, obviously if you shorted up here, last month's high on the failure, then it would be happy days. You wouldn't be worrying too much about this horrible price action that we're seeing at the moment. So, all right, I've got a little bit of time. I've got some indices here that I'll be monitoring. And this is the German stock market. So that's actually at a 79% area here. A lot of these stock markets at the moment are some key areas for potential failure. The S&P 500 is at its 79% level, as I showed you before. Here it is. The German 30 is at 79% level. So that's come down to a lower bottom on the monthly. It's coming up to 79% retracement. The price could fail there. We could be seeing lower tops falling on the monthly charts of some of these stock indices. ASX 200, here's your monthly look. Fading short of this triple top. Is that a quadruple top for failure? All right. I don't want to be the doomslayer at the moment, but we know interest rates may be rising another 3 times. At least, I know the governor of the RBA is getting raked over the coals tomorrow potentially, but there we go. NASDAQ, the monthly charts. See, it's a lower top, lower bottom. It's just deliberating this support resistance area, and it's been a fraction short at 79% level. So I'm seeing 79% levels on 3 stock indices, monthly rise at the moment. UK has been a bit different. It's actually above the all-time high at the moment. So it's a little bit different on the UK. I don't know why I've got the Aussie there. Get rid of that. All right, so indices there. Some of those indices are looking potentially negative, or, they're definitely in the areas where tops can form for a decline. The only one that's not is the UK 100 day. It's above the high there. What's the I don't often look at the Japanese, but what's the Japanese doing? Here we go. Or I'm not sure I've got all the data here for the Japanese. I'm sure there are There's more monthly highs to the left here, but this only goes back to 2012. And of course, that looks rather range bound at the moment. All right, it's not very helpful. And saying Japanese USD, is that a better version to look at? All right, it looks like it's got more data, so that would be helpful. Don't know if it's got all the data though. I'm sure there's more highs to the left over here from a long time ago. This isn't the all-time high, but we do have some more data, so it's not really telling us much more than it's very sideways in here. I can see long term that, you know, it's building up. Things must be improving within the economy long term, but and Alifma, you got questions, quite a long one, so we've got some points. Let me just read it. So your question is, when looking at structure on a chart, do you consider the most recent price action to determine the trend, or do you look at the overall picture presented on the chart, reading the chart from left? And does the most recent price action determine who is strong and who is weak between the two currencies in a pair? Well, depending on what time frame I'm looking at the most recent, or I'm looking at the larger picture. So for example, like the euro dollar, for example. Or no, let's go to New Zealand dollar is a good example, prime example. Where if I was looking at I always look at my monthly charts to get my long-term dominant trends. And I'm looking at, on the monthly chart, what is it, higher tops and bottoms, or is it lower tops and bottoms? At the moment, that's a lower top to a lower bottom. So my bigger outlook bias is to the downside. All right, because of that structure. If I've got an uptrend that was forming up here back in time, you know, price is coming up here in an uptrend, as it's approaching this area of monthly resistance tops, I have the expectation that whilst we are in an uptrend here, that uptrend can finish at historical monthly tops. So it all depends what I'm seeing. At the moment on the monthly chart, I'm just using this area. But if price was, as price was moving up there, I'd be going back in time to look at what structure we're attacking. All right. So I'm looking at, yes, the current structure and the previous structure, depending on where price is in relation to historical structure. On the weekly chart here, and then once we get into the weekly and daily, I'm looking at the more current price action, like I'm seeing here, double top. So over the last 3 weeks, I'm seeing possibly a change in trend here on the weekly chart back in line to the monthly chart. So I'm just using the more current price action here. And on the day chart here, if I'm just using the current price action here, I can just see that we're just in some form of consolidation at the moment. All right. But I would also be looking at here the day chart. If we moved up to here, then I'd be looking at the last kind of month's worth of price action to find resistance for failure. All right, so I'm actually looking at, yes, the current price action, and where is it in relation to longer term price action that's formed before. All right, hopefully that helps you. One of the difficulty of just thinking about what price action I'm using for trends, you know, when price was coming up here, this moved up to a higher top potentially. That was a higher bottom to that bottom. This is moving up to a higher top. So if you're just using pure trend rules of the most immediate price action, you'd go, okay, this is in an uptrend, I should be buying. But when we go to the monthly chart, price is trading headlong into monthly resistance here. So that's the thing that stops the day chart trend from continuing up. All right. And you ask me about the second question. Does the most recent price action determine who is strong and who is weak between the two currencies in a pair? Well, that's a difficult question to answer. Not necessarily. It may over the next 2 days, but not necessarily over the next 4 weeks. Because you can have, for example, you might have a weekly downtrend. All right. You might have a weekly downtrend. So and price is heading, price is coming back up this way. So on the day chart, your day chart trend looks to be up. So you'll be going from looking at the most recent price action on the day chart here, the trend is up. But what will probably happen is this will just move up to then, so the day chart's moving up to here. This could be a 62% retracement. So we move down, we have a 62% retracement. So that's the weekly structure. On the day the trend is up, so you're looking at the last 3 or 4 candles and you're thinking the trend is up. So does that determine who is strong and who is weak in the currency pair? It only does in those couple of trading days. If you're basing it on what the weekly trend is telling you, over the next 3 or 4 weeks, price may well then just go down this way. So you have to look at your higher time frames and look at the trend and then the pullbacks. A pullback on the weekly chart can be maybe 5 days of trading on the day chart, which looks to be in an uptrend. So then you think, okay, if this was the New Zealand dollar, you're thinking the New Zealand's getting stronger versus the US dollar, and it is on the very short term, but on the longer term, it may well turn around for a 3 or 4 week decline in line with the larger trend. So you have to look at your trends in terms of the higher time frames. And is price having a corrective move on the daily at the moment in relation to the weekly or the monthly? So now you're saying the strength and weakness on each time frame. So the strength and weakness on each time frame. So if that's the weekly hit there, the strength on this time frame is down, but this is just correcting. Before I would expect another lower top to form to move down. So on any time frame, there's always trend and correction. And if let's say you're looking at the day chart, you could be having a 3 or 4 day uptrend, but that's just corrective against a 4 week downtrend on the weekly chart. So you have to have a clear perspective of the higher time frame trends so that when you're looking at the most recent price action, you know whether that's corrective, it's minor corrective, or it's going to be more trend. So with this New Zealand dollar at the moment, where potentially so the monthly trend is down, we drop to the weekly chart and we could be forming a double top up here. Now, from a weekly perspective, if we have a week up this week, then we're going to form another higher bottom here. But if this is a double top, this could be corrective before it forms a lower top to move this way. This is the final top. We've fallen down, rally, move down. Now, as this rally occurs, it's going to look like an uptrend on the day chart. So if you're just looking at the most recent price action on the day chart without looking about what's happening on the, if you look just looking at the most recent price action on the daily chart over the last 4 or 5 candles, that's not taking into consideration what's happening on the weekly chart and the potential that this could be a double top up here. All right, so you have to go down from the highest time frame and make a structured determination of the trend before you're looking at the most recent price action, say on the day chart. All right. All right, I don't know whether that helped you or not, Leaf. Your question was quite difficult to come up with a very precise answer. All right, thanks. All right, everybody. So, of course, we've got the CPI data coming out 11:30 p.m. Queensland time tonight. Very dangerous. I mean, it's great to be in and price moves the way that you're in. That's great if suddenly it moves 100, 200 pips your way. But if it moves 100, 200 pips not your way, that's not great. So sometimes it's better not to be in. So if you're not holding positions that you're seeing nice profits on, then it's probably better not to be in until past then. Of course, price may move very quickly and then you can't get in, but that's just the fear of missing out. There's 365 days to trade. Just let the market settle down for a couple of days. I'm sure then an opportunity will present itself. All right. So be aware of that very risky item at the moment tonight, CPI data 11:30 p.m. Other than that, tomorrow I'm going to go through in the education webinar on the 79% fib retracement pattern. I've shown that many examples of that at the start of the month, but we'll go through the whole pattern on that. I've shown a couple of potential patterns forming tonight on the Aussie yen and the Euro yen, depending on what price does after the news. So that's coming up tomorrow. If you've got the time, please come and join me. Thanks for hanging out with me on Valentine's Day. Hopefully, for those that are with me, you're not upsetting your partners. Your other special half. Other than that, though, you've still got some time left in the day to make them feel special. Other than that, thanks everybody. Thanks, Edwin. Well, if May is saying you're just asking me about your account registration, you'll need to send it Nathan an email. You're asking me to help, but I'm not involved in the account opening process, so you'll need to follow up with him. Maybe there's some documentation that's not quite right. You'll need to check with him. All right, just send him an email. He's usually pretty good at getting back to you. I don't know what the hiccup is, but as I said, I have no input on the account opening section. I'm not involved in that side of things, so I can't help. I can send him a message, but I don't know what he's conveyed back to you, so maybe just send him an email. I'll send him a message on your behalf that you're asking, in case he's gotten busy and he's forgotten about you. I'll do that for you, but other than that, I have no involvement on the account opening side, but I'll do that for you. All right, everybody. Hopefully that will help you relieve me. I will send him a message for sure. All right. Thanks very much, everybody, for attending. Thanks for all your questions and input. I look forward to seeing you next time.